in Nelson.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Which part of that story do you want?
From the beginning, like, what's the
Holy
first
shit.
part of? Did you?
Alright. Okay, Crow and I are driving his bus. It's like winter, full winter. We get to Nelson. Crow's like, yeah, I know a girl we can stay with. She lives up that mountain. And I'm like, alright, sweet. So it's like now getting dark, and Crow's bus, by the way, when we're driving it like through mountain passes, everyone's like, you guys need chains on, on those tires. We're like, nah, fuck it, save our money, whatever. And those tires are garbage, so whatever. And so we like start climbing up this mountain that is, I guess there's people that live on this mountain, but it's very few people. It's not like a very wide road. It's like one lane only. And it turns out that they all have each other's numbers. So all the people that live on this mountain, they all text each other. They're like, I'm going down now, so that someone else knows to get out of the way, or I'm coming up now, or whatever, so that they don't get into these like problems where they're like, fuck, what do we do now? Because it's a very thin mountain pass with like full cliff on one side, full mountain on the other. And Crow and I knowing nothing, right? We're just like, cruising up this mountain, he's talking to me, we're bouncing up the mountain, and all of a sudden the wheels start spinning, we're fucking not getting any traction, and we're like, shit. And so then we kind of like realize, yeah, we can't go anywhere. Can't go up, and we're definitely not backing down this mountain in the middle of the night. So he just kind of like hugs the cliff, like pulls it into the cliff, like against the mountainside, and we get out and we just start walking. We're like, fuck it can't be that far. Walk up the hill and meet this like extremely eccentric girl named, what's her name? Leela. And she lives in like this weird little tiny home that her parents have built her because her parents cannot live with her because she's unfortunately suffered a really bad head injury and is very erratic, moody and erratic, and what would you call her? Like a really
she's so
creative
I guess
thinker.
what basically is that she was attending the protests in Quebec City in 2001 against the free trade area of the Americas. She is a very dedicated activist, did a lot of work with local radio station, and this was the era where a lot of people would go to these summits, and so she made her way all the way to, I think she probably went to Seattle, but then she definitely went to Quebec City, and the cops beat the shit out of her.
Cracked her skull with a billy club and fucked her brains up, basically.
Yeah, they fucked her brain up. So she had a head injury, but we didn't know this for a long time. So we were always, she was my friend for years before this, and I was like, okay, you're very like unique and special, kind of crazy, because it's not like a psychotic type of crazy.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
it's just really.
Yeah.
So. And I mean, Crow is a creative thinker too. So now we get to her place, and the two of them are just like, on fire. It's all really exciting. Everything's really great. So I fall asleep listening to them going at it. No, just in this like place that smells like, garlic socks. You know what I mean? Like, and so I fell asleep on some old sweaters and like. Looking at dreadlocks pinned to the wall and stuff like that, and then the next day we're like, fuck, we need to get this bus. We need to figure out what to do about this bus. And meanwhile, she's getting hate calls from her neighbors being like, is that because of you that school bus is fucking blah, blah, blah. And so they haven't plowed the road. They still haven't plowed the road. And so she's like, oh, that's fine. Well, I'll walk you guys down. Yeah, I'll walk you guys down to your bus and help you get it out of there. Or whatever. I'm trying to remember how this fucking worked out. Yeah. So we go walking down this hill, this mountain. We get to the bus, and we're now judging it in the daylight, and we're like, yeah, this is still pretty fucking shady. Like, what do we do? So we, 25-point turn, get the bus like facing the right direction. And then Crow's kind of like, do you want to drive? And I'm like, all right, sure. We'll drive this thing down this hill nice and slow. We'll take it really easy. And that's the plan. It's a mountain like pass.
The sketchiest fucking road I've ever seen.
Like really sketchy little road.
You managed to turn it around.
Managed to turn
covered
it around.
in ice.
That's pretty cool. And then we start to go down this snowy, icy mountain pass, and I'm like, it's air brakes and stuff, and these huge bald tires, and so we'd let the tires rotate like a quarter, and then I'd kind of brake, and then let them rotate a quarter, like really slowly urching down this hill. But then all of a sudden the tires lock, and the bus starts sliding sideways towards the edge of this fucking cliff, and there's no stopping it. We're just sliding this huge, heavy, goddamn school bus full of 50-gallon drums of diesel or biodiesel, and like it's just like weighing a fucking metric ton or whatever.
This is the most afraid I've ever been in my entire
Yeah,
life.
same here. Like just like heart up in your chest, like asshole slam shot. You're just like, oh my god. And then, so we're sliding sideways, and I just tell Crow, I'm like, fuck it, man. I'm letting go of the brakes because I wanted the wheels to roll so that we weren't sliding. Because I thought if the wheels roll, we can kind of bobsled this thing a little bit, you know, and try to hug those corners and see where the momentum takes us. And so that's what we did. We fucking hugged these corners, started gaining all this speed in this bus, and then where the hill kind of like leveled, yes, and where the fucking mountain levels out, it was suddenly like we could brake, and we slowed the bus down, and we were both like yelling and fucking shaking our hands and just like ah! And like we get off the bus, we're both just like shaking it off like holy fuck. And then, we put tobacco down and just like kind of gave thanks to whatever kept us from fucking sliding off that mountain. And it was like, that's when Crow, who's been like in all kinds of really shady situations, like Standing Rock and I don't know, all kinds of fucked up shit. And man, I've had a lot of really frightening potentially life-ending situations as well. And we were both just like, that was it. You know, that was the one. That was the one that was definitely the scariest. It was frightening, but. Dude, that's not the end of the story. The best part is that we go down the hill, and, you know, here we are, we're talking about the wet soot cause, what just happened, the rage. and Leela's like, I'm gonna go, like, she's like single woman protest. She's just like, already got we didn't even realize it, but she's got this flag and banner set up.
Huge banners,
banner. And to her credit, she's protesting the Site C Dam, the NDP's like support of open pit, you know, coal mining. She's just like got a million things she wants to talk about. So she walks into the NDP office, starts giving them shit. She's on the top of the bus with her banner. She's just like talking to anyone walking down the street. But at some point, Crow's like had enough, you know. And he's like, Leela. Wait, let's turn this back on.
Like she seems completely insane to everybody that's coming by, even though she's actually talking about things that totally make sense, like how the Site C Dam is connected to the LNG plants in Kitimat, and how the Coastal GasLink pipeline is connected to all these other things.
It all makes sense, but because she's so crazy, it's like it sounds crazy. Like no one's taking her seriously, and yeah. So there was this really interesting moment where you realize you're like, okay, well, what is crazy, really? If she's making all this sense and like pointing out all the like written into the Bill of Rights and human rights and like all of these different laws like that she's quoting as if she's a lawyer.
Oh, she was super into law at that point. She's reading case law in her spare time. This is somebody who's like super smart. If she didn't have a brain injury, then maybe she would be a lawyer.
But by the end of it, this is literally how it all breaks down. You're not able to drive up that hill again, we know that. And she's like not going to climb up the hill. She rode down on a GT snow racer. Which I totally forgot about until now. So she races down the hill on a GT snow racer, and leaves it tied up to a tree at the bottom of this mountain. So that was so fucking cool. And then by the end of this whole thing, this is literally how this goes. We're laying in the bus, and there's three of us now going to sleep in this bus, and she can't stop talking. She just like every thought that comes to her, she has to vocalize. And at one point, Crow just goes, Leela, you gotta go. Like, I can't sleep if you're in this bus. Like, you gotta go. And she's like, well, I'm not going anywhere. And Crow's like, fine, then I'm out of here. Leaves me in the bus, okay? So I'm like laying there trying to be like that peacemaker. I'm like, Leela, have you ever tried meditation? And I'm like, have you ever tried silent meditation? It's amazing. Like, you're gonna love it. She's like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so then I'm like, the trick is to just not say anything. Silent. You have to breathe. You just have to breathe and not say any of those thoughts that come to your mind. And she's like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And she's laying there, she's like, you know what? Just that's how that night went.
Actually, I think I'm gonna go find Crow.
Oh, it was fucking amazing. So fucking funny.
Yeah.